Hey, Anya. I don't know if you're where you can hear us. Okay. Okay, well, we will go ahead and get started. It is 12:02, so we will go ahead and proceed with our guest speaker today. You guys, I am so excited for today. I'm so excited because you are in for a treat. And Sunnie is somebody who I have literally been watching. Like, I remember, Sunnie, when you first signed up for Plexus and seeing you post about it and talk about it, and seeing you talk about it paying off your student debt and talk about it replacing, your job, your full-time income and all those kinds of things. And I'm like, just to see where you are today it's just it's been very fun watching your journey. So anyway, excited to get into that. So I'm going to introduce Sunnie here in just one second. But before we do, we wanted to remind you guys about the flash sale that we are having for the next 3 days. Okay, you guys, if you have not heard, Multiply 2.0, we have made enhancement after enhancement after enhancement this year. And I really feel like it is the best that it's been. We take surveys from people, we get feedback from people. And so there's been a couple things that you guys have asked for. One is you've asked for, Monique and Becky, can we go back through your program again? And so now we've offered lifetime access. When you come into our program, you are in. Like, you pay one time and you're in it. And we meet with you every Thursday and we coach you every single week. We unpack, whatever questions you have, those kinds of things. So you have lifetime access. And then for the next 3 days, you can get it for $997. That is an insane deal because earlier this year it was $3,000. So to have it for $997,
crazy.
I'm like shouting from the rooftops. I'm telling you, we're about to go back up on the price. You need to sign up.
Yeah. Yes, all the things.
Yeah. So what are some things, Becky, that are included for people who are listening for the first time?
Yeah. So, of course, you have a weekly coaching session with us every Thursday. We get on Zoom and we answer your questions. We kind of unpack usually a specific topic. And I think one thing too that we've had a lot of feedback from has been in the beginning, we talk about how to set up your social media for success, because a lot of people don't know. There's some little tweaks that you can make that will make a really big difference. And we've had people leveraging, you get 12 weeks of social media content, and people have been leveraging that. It's been really cool to see how it's kind of like a plug and play thing. So lots of people have been leveraging it and making it fit their brand and their network marketing business. So it's pretty exciting to see. We did sell another one just a little bit ago. So we've sold 6 so far of the 25. So there's only 19 spots left at this price. So if you are thinking about it, considering it, or if you are in Multiply right now and you know someone who you're like, oh man, they really need to do this. Like, it could be, your downline, your sideline, your business bestie, or your upline, just anyone that you can think of that if you're like, man, this would be really great for them, or you want to go through it with them. Because I feel like even within our community, there's little pods and masterminds and networking happening within your company. And just in general, I think something that's really amazing about what we're doing is that there are people from all different kinds of companies. And I know I've talked about this before, but to me, this is something that I wish that I had when I was building, was a community of like-minded people that were, of course I had that within Pampered Chef, but I think too, there's a lot of value that you can gain from other leaders, people in other companies, because what's working for them, you may have never even thought to try, or it could be something that you're like, oh, wow, this could revolutionize my team and our, strategy, how we strategize and grow and scale and become, develop leaders, whatever it is. Right. And so I just love that we have that aspect, because everyone is bringing something different to the table, but we're all working together towards a common goal. Right. And that is to create our legacy and create an impact on this world while also making an income. So I'm really excited about this, you guys. Just 3 days. Okay. So take advantage of it. It's we have a lot of stuff planned that's coming that we're going to be adding on to this. So you're in it like one time, you pay the $9.97 and you're in it for life. And we have a lot of stuff that we're planning for the next, of course, like quarter, but even in 2023. So it's going to be some good stuff.
Yay. Okay. So thank you, Becky. Without further ado, we are so excited to hear from Sunnie today. So Sunnie is a redheaded social worker, as you can see here, redheaded social worker turned social media marketer who really loves bringing light into the dark places in people's lives, especially when it's complicated. She is a diamond ambassador with Plexus Worldwide, and she has built her team over the last 8 years. She and her husband live in Searcy, Arkansas, where she also teaches at Harding University. If you need them, you will probably find them chasing her almost 3-year-old and cuddling her 3-month-old. And I have to add in here, I was saying this before we started recording. So Sunnie and Becky and I all went to the same college, and Sunnie and I were in the same social club. And I have watched her from when, first of all, I've always thought you were a leader. You've always been a phenomenal leader, but I've watched you from when you signed up for Plexus all those years ago. And I see your posts consistently over the years, and to see where you are today, and not just the success in business, like, yes, that's one aspect of it, but really the impact that you've made in so many lives, and the people who you've helped, and the people who are able to, make income for their families and bless their families and help other people and get healthy and be over chronic illness and all these other things. Like, there's just so many lives that you have impacted. So we don't want to take any more time, but we will let you go ahead with today's training.
Thank you, Monique. Thank you, Becky. I'm honored that you guys asked me to be on. And as you're talking about all of these 8 years, it makes this presentation mean even more to me, because so much of it has been walking through really hard stuff, and how to do that, how to make an impact despite the hard. And so the name of the presentation, I'll just hop right into it, is How to Quit Quitting on Yourself, and other lessons from acceptance and commitment coaching. So I am a social worker. I maintain my license. I still teach sociology. And right about the same time as I was starting my Plexus business, I was learning in graduate school about acceptance. Well, shortly before my business, I was learning about acceptance and commitment therapy. And I was seeing how applicable it was to my business, to living a life that I value, living a life that I love, living a life that, even though it's hard and full and busy, I still want to show up for it. We want to build legacy leaders. I can tell that our values line up. Monique and Becky, you guys talk about how you're multiplying, how you want to build legacy leaders and you want to build income. And that's what I'm here to do, is to help you build a business and a life that you don't want to escape from. I don't want business builders that are in and out, hot and cold, here for a month, gone for 3. I want you guys to be able to show up daily, to quit quitting on yourself, to live the life that you value and will help shine light into other people's lives. So here we go. Without further ado. All right. So the thing with acceptance commitment therapy, I'm going to give you an overview, but there's acceptance and commitment coaching also, and a few books that I really recommend. And the first one, for an easy, non-jargony intro, is The Happiness Trap. Okay. This one is by Russ Harris, and it's a great introduction to acceptance and commitment ideas. And I'm going to break down what that means in a minute, because sometimes acceptance and commitment sounds like, oh, just accept where you are and commit to, life, even if it's terrible. That's not what this is about at all. But it does open your eyes to ways that we trap ourselves into lives we don't love. So the happiness trap is the concept that I'm most attached to. And it's that we logically know building a business, living a life we love is hard, but we're conditioned to believe that happiness
And success is a lack of negative feelings. It's having certain things in order to appear successful or be, quote, happy. And we find ourselves in a trap because we wind up avoiding things that really matter to us, that will push us toward what we're looking for, because we're trying to seek out success, or we're trying to seek out this constant sense of happiness, or that things are good. And we have different, if you think through the list of emotions, we have several of them that we check off as bad, as not desirable, as we don't want to have those. And we wind up going in this circle because we're trying to avoid those. And I'm going to talk some more about that. So in the happiness trap, we see that success looks like achievement, growth, titles, certain amounts of income, right? And also in our culture, we have this idea that if it's broken, we can just fix it, right? And that works for many things. If we break a bone, we go to the doctor, we fix it. If our faucet is broken at home, we call a plumber, they come out, they fix it, everything's better, we button it up, it looks great, it's in a happy box, and we move on about our lives, right? But unfortunately, I hate to break it to you, but our thoughts and our feelings do not work that way. We cannot fix them. We cannot control them. We cannot make them go away, no matter how hard we try. And some of you are sitting back going like, oh no, I can control my thoughts. I pray, I do affirmations. Hang with me. Don't tune me out yet. It is hard, very hard to control our thoughts, because our brains are 24/7 thinking and problem-solving machines. They are constantly looking to help keep you safe and solve problems. Our brains are not designed to move us forward and to live a value-driven life. Our brains do not care about success and achievement. They care about keeping you safe. And the thing is, we have evolved to see thoughts and feelings as just as scary as like a real life threat. So a saber-toothed tiger in the room. Our brain takes thoughts and emotions that are, quote, bad, undesirable, and it says, oh no, we're going to avoid this like a saber-toothed tiger, and we are not going to move you forward. We do not care about your values. Shut it down. Go back into the cave where it is safe. Okay. And we see this all the time in our businesses. And that's why not very many people make it to the top in what we do, because we are all retreating back into the cave because that's where it's safe and our brain tells us to. It's so normal. It is so life. It is so a part of building a business. Our brains are really smart and also not very smart at the same time. Okay. So we think, and we can get very tied to believing that our thoughts are reality, that it is actually true, that it's actually happening right here and now. We believe that they're truth. We completely believe them. We think our thoughts are important. We take them very seriously. We give them our full attention. We sometimes take mindfulness, meaning we're going to take in all of our thoughts and assess what's going on. We take them sometimes as orders, like, oh, well, I've had this thought that I need to go do this, and we do that. We also believe that our thoughts are wise. We give our brains way too much credit. We assume that they know best because, hey, this brain thing has done life with me all along. Let's just go ahead and follow the advice because I'm smart, right? We think we're really smart. And then also we think our thoughts are threats. Like I mentioned earlier, there's some thoughts that are disturbing or bad or scary, and we want to get rid of them at all costs. We want to avoid having those, and we will do all sorts of crazy things to avoid them. So let's talk through some of this. So when we're stuck and really, really close to, fused with our thoughts and emotions, what happens is when we're trying to live a life that we value and build a business that we love, we face undoubtedly on our path to out of our comfort zone, unwanted emotions or thoughts. And then what happens is we see those thoughts or emotions as a threat. We don't want them, right? So what we do is we move away. We move away from them. We attempt to avoid it in some way, rationalize it, hustle through it, right? Like we want to avoid those. And then what happens is we wind up having some short-term relief, but then we wind up with super unmet goals and unfulfilled lives. But that pattern, we get so attached to that, and we, without some distance from our thoughts, it happens all day, every day. So what we know is that we can connect the dots, D-O-T-S, of our avoidance. All of us use these every day. Some sort of distraction, opting out, thinking strategies, substances, we're stress eating a bag of Doritos, right? Or we're using thinking strategies. Look, I'm using affirmations. I am planning out my day to try to relieve stress or anxiety, right? We're opting out where I'm just like, I'm gonna go not do this thing. I am like really good at getting other stuff. I'm gonna suddenly organize this room instead of doing my other thing, right? Also distraction. We know what Netflix is like. We know how distracting and enticing that brain numbing game is on your phone that just lets you shut it down, just shut it. And sometimes these things are okay, guys. I'm not saying they're not, but we use these avoidance strategies all the time when we are too close to our thoughts. So in reality, we want to know, is it really working for you? Is that avoiding really getting you where you want to be? And these are 4 questions you need to ask yourself. So what goal is it you're trying to reach? Where are you trying to go? Why? Why are you trying to go there? And then what has internally in your brain gotten in the way of you achieving this in the past? What thoughts pop up for you? And what have you tried to manage it? What have you been doing when those thoughts come up? Are you slowing down long enough to pay attention to what your brain is telling you about XYZ or this thing you're trying to do, or going outside of your comfort zone? Have you really listened and slowed down long enough to take that in? And then what are you doing to manage that thought? How has it worked for you in the short term? If we're honest with ourselves, those strategies work. They work really well to just take it off our brain for a while, right? But are they working for you in the long term? Are they moving you forward? And I have had some super hard lessons in building my business of what it looks like to avoid those emotions and realize that in the long term, it not only wasn't working, but it was really hurting me. It was not good for me. So ask yourself those questions and remember that if beating ourselves up worked, it would have worked by now, my friend. So we sit there and flog ourselves for not being where we're supposed to be, right? And we're hard on ourselves. And it's like, if I just cared a little bit more, or, you know, maybe if I had some more inner motivation, or maybe if this were right, or if I had my brain on straight, or right? All these things. If that worked, it would have worked by now. So what other option do we have? If that's not really working and actually pushing us forward, what is it that we need to do? Okay, so here's the hexaflex that is acceptance and commitment therapy that is turned into a coaching model, right? I use this to coach myself all the time. Okay, so what we're going to look at is experiential acceptance. Well, first, we're looking for more psychological flexibility in our lives, in our businesses. And the hexaflex gives us all these different categories of how to achieve more flexibility in our lives. So the first is the experiential acceptance. Acceptance means practicing non-judgmental awareness to internal and external events. So acceptance doesn't just mean I'm going to accept that I'm at this level of my business and that's okay. That's not what that means. Experiential acceptance means that we're just aware of where we are. We accept that this is where we are. These are the internal and external things going on around me. And that there are a lot of things that we're just really out of control of. Well, there's a lot of things that we think we can control, but we really can't, okay? The present moment, this is like our mindfulness type stuff. Are we aware and are we acquainted with our experiences in the present moment? Are we slowing down long enough to realize what's going on in our brains and around us? And so this is where mindfulness comes in: deep breathing, focusing, giving yourself time to journal, those present moments that allow you to connect with what really matters to you, which are your values. Okay, so our values are just defining what's most important to you. Define your purpose, the direction, the way you want to go. And then committed action is the process that you take in heading toward those values, heading toward those goals, even when we're uncomfortable, even with those thoughts and feelings we don't like that are, quote, negative, right? That is what committed action looks like. So acceptance and committed action toward where we want to go. And then selfless context, that is a whole different training. Like, I need like 10 weeks to go over explaining selfless context, but it is our observing self. It's the part of us that is aware of our thoughts, that can be aware of our feelings and our actions. Cognitive diffusion, this is the part that we're kind of talking about the most on this call, is learning how to notice our thoughts and give ourselves some distance from them so they don't accidentally control our entire days. Okay, because we want to move forward toward our values, not get caught up in managing our thoughts. Okay, so that is very briefly what ACT is, but our goal is to find this flexibility with life so that we can be intentional. Okay, so our thoughts, in reality, you know, we went over all the ones that we think thoughts are, but in reality, thoughts are not something that we can control or stop. We have tens of thousands of thoughts going through our heads every hour and minute of the day. We cannot pinpoint all of them. I think sometimes we use the Bible verse, you know, take every thought captive, and think that means we can control our brains. I don't think it means that. I think it means that we take it and we're aware of it. We're mindful of it, in that way capturing it, not controlling it. Because the truth is, I know we do all these things to control and modify. We use affirmations, and that's fantastic if they work for you. You know, we use cognitive behavioral therapy, and hey, that works too. But if we're going to be honest with ourselves, if we were hooked up to a polygraph with a gun pointed to our head and we were told not to be anxious, we would fail. We cannot control our emotions like we like to think that we can. Okay, so being aware of that makes you a little bit more free from it, because sometimes these unwanted thoughts are like an unwanted house guest. So you're having a party, this unwanted person, thought, feeling, emotion shows up, and we can sometimes wind up ruining the party for ourselves, just trying to get rid of the thought, trying to hustle our way to prove that we are good, or trying to hustle our way to not feel, or trying to avoid the feeling of being uncomfortable or anxious, right? So thoughts can just be unwanted house guests, and we're either really disengaged from our lives trying to get rid of them, or we're just there trying to control them instead of being present with what we actually want to do. Our thoughts are considered only if they're helpful. So let me tell you, before this call, as I was making this presentation, I kept having this thought pop into my brain: you are too tired right now. As a mama of a newborn, right? You are too tired right now to do this. Your thoughts are going to be jumbled. You probably have not put enough time into it. Like, my thoughts were going 24/7. You know what? If I were sitting there trying to figure out if those thoughts were true, the truth is I probably am not at my 100%. But that's not helpful, right? If I thought that were true, and I was trying to prove that it wasn't true, no, I am good, I would be spending hours perfecting something and not learning, or I would just not show up, or I would get this feeling that it wasn't good, or that it wasn't good enough, and I probably wouldn't show up and do it again. So we have to pay attention to where those thoughts are coming from, okay? And it doesn't matter so much if that thought is true or not. We have to ask ourselves, is the thought helpful? And sometimes we just have to go, thank you, brain, for trying to protect me. I understand this is uncomfortable. This is something new. This is pushing you outside of your comfort zone. Thank you, brain, for trying to protect me, but I'm going to take this action forward that I know is going to make a difference in my life. So when we have that amount of distance to not just immediately believe our thoughts, we can take these as suggestions, our thoughts as suggestions, and choose our value instead of just listening to our thoughts. And believe it or not, our thoughts, no matter how painful, cannot harm you. They cannot harm you. Now, they can lead us to paths where we choose to harm ourselves, but pain from our thoughts cannot actually physically harm us. But our brains tell us, quick, get rid of them, because our brains process uncomfortable emotions in the same place that they process actual physical pain. That doesn't mean they're actually causing you pain. Our brain is just working through it, trying to protect us, okay? All right, so thoughts do not have to be as powerful as they are, because our values are like a light on a hill guiding us from afar as we try to navigate what matters to us the most. Okay, our values are that beacon out there that reminds us, okay, I'm going through all this stuff right here, but I'm heading that direction. And I'm going there because it matters to me. And because when I think about it too long and too hard, it makes me cry. Okay. Whew, I wasn't expecting that. Our values, when we really attach our lives to them, it's hard not to follow that calling. They guide us, even when it's hard, even when we're tired, even when we have breastfeeding hormones that are making you cry on a call, right? Our values guide us forward, okay? When we are aware of what our thoughts and emotions are doing, we can have an unwanted emotion, thought, feeling, and we can choose, despite that negative feeling, even with that negative feeling, what matters to us, and we can move toward our goals by taking valued actions, small steps forward. And from that, we have life expansion, and we have success sometimes, and sometimes we have failure. And that's on the hard pills to swallow. That when we show up for our actions and our values, that sometimes it doesn't lead to the success that we really desperately want. Sometimes it leads to a lesson that we have to learn and on our way to the success and the valued life that we want. So, but either way, it leads to life expansion. Any of you guys who've been through really hard things come out on the other end going, that sucked, but I'm really glad it happened. I'm really glad I went through that because I learned something. It made me a more empathetic, whole, understanding, strong person because I went through it. That's life expansion. And to me, that means so much more than a title or a certain paycheck number or a certain amount of recruits a month. That's life expanding and it's life giving. Okay. All right. So I have a question. Are your goals for your business based on your values? So I put these pictures up here because I used to love as a kid, and you guys probably did too, going through the JCPenney or Sears Christmas catalog, and you look at all the things and you know, over ambitiously circle all the things that you wanted for Christmas or your birthday or whatever you were looking at it through. And I remember as a kid, I cleaned my room up, which I didn't ever like to do. I didn't really do it, but I would clean my room up from time to time, and I would clean it up like a staged bedroom in the JCPenney magazine. I'd have like a toy out on the bed, or like the quilt not completely tucked in, like folded back so it looked pretty and it was staged. And my mom would come in and she's like, what are you doing? This is like your toys are still out. And I'm like, yeah, it's how it's supposed to be, right? Because I had seen it. I had been modeled that. I thought that that's what it was supposed to be. But someone from the outside looking in is looking and going, that's not really how it's supposed to go, or that something's a little off there. Sometimes we build our businesses that way. We stage them like how we have been, you know, modeled what a business is supposed to look like, what goals you're supposed to have. You look left and right and you're like, oh, this person built their business in this amount of time. Well, by golly, I should too, or I should do it faster, right? We stage our lives based on other people sometimes. And come to find out, it might not actually be your values at play there. Your goals, we're just doing it because that's what we've seen or heard or think we're supposed to do based on cultural goals and values, but they may not be ours. So being unclear on our values is like a sailboat without a rudder. We are absolutely at the mercy of the waves, at the mercy of comparison, of peer pressure, of societal shoulds, right? I should be here with this amount of work. I should have already earned X, Y, Z. Should tells me we are living by somebody else's values and not our own. Because if we're living within our own values, we won't be looking left and right. We'll just be showing up because it's what matters to us. Okay. So what's that look like? So what would you show up for even when it was really, really hard? So clarify your values. I cannot emphasize this enough. Again, this is one of those things, it's a whole training all on its own, but clarify your values, what matters to you the most, where you are in life. Use online resources. One of my favorites is Brené Brown's. It's linked in my bio on Instagram. I'm at Sunnie Keck, S-U-N-N-I-E Keck. Funny thing, when I got married, I now had to start spelling not only my first name because it's spelled weird, but now my last name. So it's S-U-N-N-I-E K-E-C-K, Sunnie Keck. So I just, every time I say my name, I just go ahead and spell the whole thing. Thankfully, my middle names, which yes, I have two, which is also confusing, but I have two middle names, and thankfully they're, boring, normal names, Samantha and James. So I don't have to spell those, but I do have to spell my first and last name now. I digress. Okay, go to anywhere, your online resource, and figure out what matters to you the most. What sets your soul on fire? When your soul was on fire, what were you doing? Who were you with? What were you learning? Which direction were you moving in life? What sets your soul on fire? Our goals and values are not the same thing. Don't mix them up. Don't get it confused. Our values are something bigger. They should guide what our goals look like. Our goals are not our values. So goals linked to values are more likely to be achieved than those that are not. So a way to quit quitting on ourselves is to link our goals to things that matter to us the most, things that we would show up for even when it's hard. Goals that are inconsistent with our values often lead us to burnout. So we're conditioned to think that more is better. In our society, we are hustle cultured, right? More is better. And maybe that's not your value right now. Maybe consistency and balance is your core value. And if you try to show up as somebody else's value of excellence, then you are going to burn yourself out in 0.2 seconds, and you will not show back up for your value of balance, which means having a little bit of all of it. But I can't tell you what your goal is because I don't know what your specific values are, but you do. And you can set a goal that is in line with those. Again, not looking left and right, not staging your business of what you think it's supposed to be, or after your upline or your sideline, your values, your goals, to be able to not quit on yourself. Okay. And then we've seen, you guys have all heard of SMART goals, but these are a little bit different, based a little bit on acceptance and commitment coaching by Russ Harris. He says SMART goals are specific, meaningful, adaptive, and realistic. So specific means, what does it actually look like in your real life? Not making a goal that is something that's outside of your control. So often I hear people say, I want to recruit 3 people this month. Well, that's great, but you can't control if people come on board or not. You can set that in the back of your mind, but I want you to write down specifically what you're going to do in order to possibly recruit those 3 people. What can you control? Well, I can control by showing up and having conversations, by making posts on social media, right? Make it very specific what it is you can control. The second one is it meaningful? Is it in line with your values? Always checking back to that beacon in the distance. Does it matter to you? Does it bring you closer to your ideal self or your ideal life, business, and overall what you want people to see and know about you at the end of your life? What are they going to say at you at your funeral? Who was Sunnie? What did she live for? What was her business based on? Is it meaningful to you? And then adaptive. Does your goal enrich your life? Does it help you? Does it move you forward? And then does it open you up to become more psychologically flexible? Is it so, like, we don't want our goals to be so rigid that we wind up failing over and over again. That also goes with the realistic, right? Is it realistic? We can shoot for the moon, but if we do that every single month, we're human. And if we keep failing, it doesn't feel good, right? So make it realistic. You think you can beat yourself up to get there, right? Sometimes you can. We push, right? But we want it to be adaptive and realistic. We want to be psychologically flexible so that if, something crazy comes up in our lives, we can be adaptive and go, you know what? I'm going to change that goal a little bit and bring it down, and it's going to be okay. Next month, I'll show up for another goal, right? So specific, meaningful, adaptive, and realistic. So in the end, and to kind of sum up, wholehearted business owners know how to act. Okay, we know how to accept our thoughts and feelings to be present with our lives. We know how to connect with our values, and from those values, take effective action toward where we want to go. We know how to act as wholehearted business owners. And honestly, it's my own personal goal is to redefine success. So success in our businesses is any time we are living by our values. And some of you high achievers, you're sitting there going, but no, I have to make it to the top of this company. Well, I can almost promise you, if that is your goal and your value, you will, absolutely. But we need to just know that showing up is enough. What you're doing is enough. Moving toward your values is success. Don't tell yourself that it's not. Celebrate the small wins, because that is what motivates us forward, okay? Act your way to the life and business that you value the very most. That's it. That's all. I'm all done now.
Oh my goodness. So good. I have so many notes. So good, Sunnie. I'm like already thinking of things. So one thing I love that you said was burnout is when you're living out the goals that are inconsistent with your values. I was like, phew. Because, it's like so often people see their upline who's like, they hit this or they did this, and then you go after it, but it has nothing to do with your own values,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that blew my mind too. And she said that, I was like, ooh, that's some good. I also loved when you talked about SMART goals. Everyone's always like measurable, but I liked that it was changed to meaningful. Mm-hmm. And if it's not aligning with like your values, then it's probably not the right goal. So I love that little change, because I feel like we hear about that a lot in this industry, like set the number, whatever. And then when someone doesn't reach that number of recruits or that, number of volume or whatever it is, then they're falling down that trap of like, okay, well, I'm not enough. And like, I couldn't get enough, instead of celebrating, what they did accomplish. So thank you. This was amazing. I loved it. Thank you so much. Especially for our tired mama. And it is exhausting. I've been there. Like I tell people this story a lot. Like 2 months after Evelyn was born, I promoted to executive. And I was like, I don't even remember like half of it. Like, I was running on fumes, so I can only imagine how you feel right now. And we really appreciate that. Just shows your character too, that you're willing to show up and serve others, even when you don't profit or benefit from it. That I do,
but I do benefit from it.
Well, I do. We just really appreciate,
because it's my value. I show up because I value it, right? Because that's what it's in line with who I am, right? And so I do get something from it. It gives me success, right? It makes me feel good.
Yes.
So thank you.
All right. Awesome. Thank you.
All right. We have some Facebook comments. So Sarah said, thanks, Sunnie. I loved changing how we set our goal to make it what we can control. I thought that was also a really good point about not focusing on the 3 people you're going to get in, but maybe how many times you're reaching out, how many posts you're doing, those kinds of things. That was a great reminder. Okay. So, and then Carrie says, Sunnie, you were on fire. This was so good. Tons of screenshots and notes. Thank you. So thank you so much. So I don't know if we don't have any specific questions unless anyone wants to drop something in the comments real quickly. Becky, did you have anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. I just really appreciate this topic, because I do think it's not something that is talked about enough. And I think many of us, after especially like 2020, we all had a huge, just the industry as a whole, there was a lot of success, a lot of momentum. And with it came, as you scale, so do your responsibilities. And for some people, it meant, running themselves ragged, trying to keep up. For others, it meant they lost their title now. And so now they're feeling this sense of like, oh no, am I not enough? And I just think in general, like something Monique and I are kind of like, we're like out to do is not only elevate this industry, but also to tell people you can build it differently. Like it's nothing. We obviously love our companies and the corporate side. Like we love those people. We love the founders. We love the, like the opportunity they've given, the everyday person. Right. But at the same time, it's okay too, to say, you know what, like, yay, thank you for like telling me I can earn an Apple Watch, but like, that does not equate to like success for me. Instead, I need to focus on how can I maybe put a system in place to help me scale long term. And, just recognizing that, we don't have to look around, but instead kind of put your blinders on and think like, what is meaningful to me, and what is the impact I want to leave on the world? And yeah, let's leverage the compensation plan like crazy, right? But at the same time, that doesn't define who we are. And I really personally, just the journey that like I've walked through, it means a lot to me. And I know like many people out there have probably experienced something really similar. And I just appreciate when very successful, powerhouse leaders speak to this, because it just means that, I'm not alone, and there's other people out there that are saying, yes, there's more to life than your title.
Absolutely. And also like on the other side of that too, it's like some of us, and I'm speaking from my own experience, some of us are not showing up for our values by pushing. Some of us have stopped pushing forward to our own greatness because of the thoughts going on in our head. And so some of us need to take a dang break and be enough. And some of us need to show up more. We need to be, that is our value, and we're not showing up for ourselves. Just one more plug. The book, The 4 Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin, is blowing my mind. It's all about the 4 different tendencies people have for how they handle expectations. So what we do, some of us show up really well for our inner and our outer expectations. Some of us only show up for outer expectations. Some of us only show up for inner expectations and struggle with the others. And some of us don't show up to any expectations. We only do what we want to do, which is super fascinating to me. And like, as we build teams and help people get in connection with their own values, that book has like, I'm learning so much about myself. So some of us need to show up for ourselves more. Me, I need to show up for myself and my individual business more, because I value that ultimately. Yeah.
So good.
Guys, I really appreciate you guys having me. It means a lot. I like to exercise my speaking skills. I learn something new every time. So.
And now your energy is up. Now you're
I think that probably was also the active I chugged before.
Yeah. Shameless plug for the Plexus Active.
My mama go juice.
Okay, so Sunnie, before we get off, can you tell people where they can find you? So if someone is interested in Plexus products, if they're interested, I know you gave us your Instagram, but what are the ways that people can connect with you?
Okay, so the best way, I'm on Instagram way more, and it's at Sunnie Keck, SUNNIEKECK, Sunnie Keck. That's the best place to find me. I'm also on Facebook, but those are the easiest ways to reach me.
Okay.
I would say email, but that would be a lie. I'm really terrible at checking my email. So message me on any social and I'll get back to you.
All right. Well, thank you, Sunnie. We so appreciate you being here. Thanks, everyone.